Forgiving ourselves, forgiving oneself. A Course in Miracles helps us quite a bit to understand the process of letting go, where we can help each other to let go of the past and move on to a better life. Forgiving oneself is definitely a letting go process. Self-forgiveness may take longer than a day or two for many of us, and the time frame will vary for everyone because as humans we like to hang on to guilt. But regardless of how long it takes, letting go, the process of letting go, accepting that you must let go of the guilt, this is the idea that keeps you on the path for hope. Hello everyone, this is James Nussbaumer, and in my first book of the series called The Master of Everything, a story of mankind in the world of illusion we call life, in the first book of this series, we talk about how many of us continue to harbor the past and the mistakes that we've made for far too long after a particular incident. Many people hang on to self-guilt for years and years, and by letting go of the guilt begins a path for everyday miracles in your life. Yes, everyday miracles. It was among many other things that my longtime golfing pal, John Phillips, who I hadn't seen or spoken to in over 15 years, who had located me in an Ohio prison where I was incarcerated for a foolish securities violation, a mistake that I definitely had to begin letting go of. In a previous blog article that I'd written and also a previous set of videos, I discussed how John is now living in Northern California, and John Phillips admitted to me that he often was reminiscing in his mind over our golfing glory days in sunny Florida, where we had met back in each of our 30s. We're about the same age. But as you might well know, that as things get busy in our lives and things happen in our lives, sometimes we seem to easily lose touch with our friends while still keeping in the back of our minds all the great memories. But John had told me of his company's high-tech communication system that enabled him to track me down while I was in prison, as well as to see for himself through all the court records, the battle that I had given in court and had lost, and all the details of the mess I'd gotten myself into, not to mention the heartache I must have caused others. But, you know, it's about getting caught up in things. And John went on to say that in his detailed letter that how time certainly does fly by, and the two of us merely got caught up, and that he got caught up as well, and that by just knowing me, that he was well aware of my sincere regret and my apologies to those who may have fell victim to my irresponsible actions. He reminded me about the importance of forgiving oneself. John also added how glad he was to see that my case was not as serious as the court had trumped it up to be. The prosecutor and the press making a heyday out of it. He indicated that I should just relax and expect to get through this experience while I was watching it leave myself behind me as well while I was in prison. Just hang in there, John said in his handwritten letter, his closing words to this treasured communication between great friends that haven't seen each other in a while. I paused for a moment and put down his handwritten letter and put it down briefly and thought to myself how absolutely correct he was about forgiving oneself, to begin letting go and moving on from your mistakes. Let's face it, as humans, we're all going to make mistakes, but we need to overcome them and make whole of our mistakes. I just cannot believe how I allowed myself to get caught up in these actions that sent me to prison, where I'd spent 8 long years. And for those directly and indirectly affected, once again, I take this opportunity for anyone that may be watching to publicly apologize. You know, it really is about forgiving ourselves. When we can do that, it takes a load off of our mind. There are times when we take ill-fated action and we know that we shouldn't, but we do anyway. So why do we do it as humans? Well, as humans, only deep within us individually do we truly know that answer. But we have to go behind it when we allow ourselves to let go of the human aspect. of who we are, when we can go beyond the body, I guess is what I'm saying, we can open ourselves to truly knowing the answer, why we make the mistakes we make. We don't have to share them with others, but we can just open ourselves up and see why we make the mistakes we make without condemning ourselves any further. But accepting this answer that you find within yourself is the first step in forgiving ourselves. A Course in Miracles goes on to state that the real world is simply by the complete forgiveness of the old, meaning the world that you see without forgiveness. Then we can move forward in asking others for their forgiveness. Looking at our past mistakes or the wrongs without self-scolding and further condemnation or condemning ourselves, we can begin reflecting what is most important to us, our morals and our values, and who we truly are. In John's letter, his handwritten letter to me while I was in prison, he had reminded me about, well, there's many letters since then that he had written me, but this was the first letter that I had received from him after so many years of not seeing him. But in that letter, he reminded me about words of inspiration and wisdom, he said, that I once gave him as a treasured gift and that he still treasures today. In fact, I wondered what that could have been as I was reading his letter. But in fact, he said that he recalled those words during a difficult time that he had in his transition to Northern California from Florida in the move out west, with the hectic move and the business being reestablished in a new area in a new state with different regulations and all the roadblocks and hurdles he had to climb over. He said he remembered a few words that I had said, and it was something about change being healthy. He said that I had mentioned to him years ago, and that we shouldn't be frightened over change. And he was actually telling me that it struck a chord with him, and he hung on to those words. So he was trying to mirror those words back to me, and hopefully that I could see that maybe even the change I was going through, as hard and painful as it was, that maybe it was all going to work out for the best. And let's talk about another step of forgiveness, which I had mentioned a little bit ago, but letting go. We need to surrender or let go. As I put John's letter, into my footlocker with the intention of savoring it later on my bunk, when I could maybe be in a more relaxed time later that evening ahead, it dawned on me how we each help each other in this world, don't we? Yeah, we do. And it's nice to receive help from others. And we often don't realize it, though, when we are receiving help from others. All along, I was thinking about how John had always inspired me. And now here he was thanking me for doing the same to him, which was several years ago. But after letting go of some of after he letting go of some of his own struggles, John was once again back on his own game, his golf game too, as well, inspiring me further when I truly needed his inspiration. And along with an open invitation to me, he actually invited me to one day play golf with him in the hills of the wine country in Northern California. So I remember that day in prison reading that letter and just licking my chops, my golfing chops, so to speak, with a smile on my face that had me grinning from ear to ear, and it kept my motivation moving forward in me with a definite and certain vision of forgiving oneself while placing the totality of those dark times I was experiencing in prison behind me. I don't have to believe, because I just know that my good friend John did not find success and happiness due to just believing that he could. What I mean is, for example, I had mentioned in a previous blog about he was really still is to this day, pro golfing caliber of his talent. And the ego-stroking temptation for him to becoming a star pro golfer held no power over him, because it's really not what he wanted, because he was honest with himself and he knew it wasn't what he wanted. But he is where he is today due to the knowledge and the inner power of mind that he tapped into within himself simply by following his heart rather than what others may have prescribed for him. His golf game, his brotherhood, and his family life are a clear reflection of the jewel that is his reality. I hope this makes sense, and please note that if you feel the urge for more content relating to today's article on the area of forgiveness or getting over our anxieties and our mistakes, please check out a related blog that I have at my blog site, which, by the way, the link to my website, my safe website, is in the description box down below of this YouTube video. That will have you land at my self-help library, but there you'll find my blog site, and feel free to tool around and enjoy the blogs. And also, if you've enjoyed this video, please click the subscribe button here at YouTube and subscribe to my channel. It would help me out a lot. I'd love for you to subscribe. And if you would like to sign up for my Everyday Miracles Mastermind newsletter, you'll find that at my website as well, which you'll get there by the link in this description box. And there you'll find at my safe website, my blog, my self-help library, my Real Abundance page, and so much more. And in my newsletter, my mastermind newsletter called Everyday Miracles, it's where we, meaning you and I, as the author, bring our minds together for self-success and for a better world for each of us. Now, I really hope that you decide to live in this world by forgiving yourself, by forgiving others, by just forgiving oneself and letting go of the guilt that only limits you. I hope you're thinking a lot about your own life as well, and about extending the natural gifts inside of you to others to help them, as my friend John Phillips had done to me. I hope this video made sense to you, and I hope we maybe run into each other someday up the road. Thanks again, and God bless.